AV in your ears, that's ambush being giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my voice, Steve, Fascination Street. You already know, let's get it. When you whip in the Fascination Street, what do you...
This is Keaton Simons, and you're listening to Fascination Street Podcast.
AV in your ears, that's ambush being giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my voice, Steve, Fascination Street. You already know, let's get it. When you whip in the Fascination Street, what do you...
Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Keaton Simons. Keaton is a musical phenom. Yes, he's an actor and he's been in some things, but his focus is music. And he has been doing music for a long time. Even from when he was a little kid, he was singing in movie scores and different projects. Keaton has worked with everybody you could possibly imagine. He was in Gnarles Barkley for a hot minute. He's worked with Snoop Dogg. He's worked with Darryl McDaniels from Run DMC. He even worked with the great Cornell. We talk about all of those things. There was a whole bunch we didn't talk about. But of course, he has his own music. He does his own thing. He does let me play one of his favorite songs that he co-wrote with his friend Jason Mraz. So you'll get to hear that. It's a dope tune. As if that's not enough, Keaton is also the lead guitar player for the country musician Brett Young, who is making waves all over the world in the country music scene. Huge success, multi-platinum selling artist, and they are currently on tour. For all of May, they're going to be doing dates in Australia, and then they are going to take a little bit of a break, and then in October, they're going to hit the road again and go to Scandinavia, doing shows in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Check out BrettYoungMusic.com to find out where they're going to be and to get tickets to some of those shows. As you will hear toward the end of this episode, Keaton and I didn't even get to a fraction of the cool things that there are to talk about with regard to him and his career and some of his cool stories. So expect a return appearance from the great Keaton Simons. But for now, this is my first conversation with Keaton Simons.
Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast. Keaton Simons, what's up, dude?
How you doing?
I cannot complain. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a long time coming, sort of. A little behind the scenes, I completely dropped the ball, and Keaton was so kind as to not tell me to go fuck right off. So I appreciate you, dude. You're awesome.
It was no problem at all. You did something I do constantly, which is the right number, but the wrong date, the wrong month.
Oh my God, it was so crazy.
I do it constantly. I'm like, what month is that happening again?
That is hilarious. Yeah, particularly like when we're scheduling things so far in advance.
Of course.
I think you know, you probably know him. Comedian Adam Carolla.
Yeah, of course.
A long time ago, he said that whenever his agent or his booking manager says, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?" And he'll go, "When is it?" And if it's more than 3 weeks away, he'll just go, "Yeah, why not?" Because he forgets about it. And then he has to be reminded. And he's like, "Wait, what am I doing? I said yes to that?"
Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar.
Keaton Simons, everybody. He is amazing. Well, he comes from a whole, generations of film and television. And this dude is a star in his own right. He is a singer, songwriter, musical director, a composer. He does all the things. Oh, he's also an actor. I mean, we're gonna get crazy. And he owns a record label. We're going everywhere. Okay, first, I want to say that my mom and your stepdad share a birthday, which is, I guess, a week from today.
That's great.
Which I thought was super cool. And your birthday and your friend Chris Cornell.
That's right.
Y'all have the same birthday, which is the anniversary of my wife and my marriage.
Oh, wow. You got married on July 20th?
We're connected, bro. We got all the things.
Wow. I love that.
What I like to do, Keaton, is I like to start from the beginning. It helps us understand how the guests got from where they were to where they are. So where were you born and raised, man? Where'd you grow up?
I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Mm-hmm. And I grew up very much in that Hollywood world, on sets and things like that. But the majority of my family who are in the film and television industry are behind the scenes, behind the camera. They're writers, producers, directors, casting agents, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, there's plenty of actors and stuff too. But spent a lot of time on sets and on all those lots when I was a kid.
Your mom's dad, your grandfather, was a screenwriter who wrote all kinds of crazy stuff. He wrote everything.
Yeah.
Including 3 Days of the Condor, which actually the bad guy in that movie was Hank Garrett. And he is a previous guest of my show. Dude's like 95 years old. And
he's old.
He's amazing, though. He's got such a crazy story of like, even before he was an actor, he did all this crazy stuff. It's nuts. He's like in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Wow. He was a boxer. Like he did all this crazy shit. He was in gangs. It was nuts, dude.
That's amazing, bro. That's amazing.
Before that generation, so before your grandfather, was he the first one in the industry, or does it go even further back than that?
Pretty sure my grandparents in general were the first ones in my family to be in that industry.
Both sides?
Both sides, but my dad's side, I think my dad is the first one on his side to be part of the film and television industry. On my mom's side, it was my grandparents, so my mom's parents who started it. And they started in it so early on, in especially television. My grandmother, Lila Garrett, she was a pioneer in TV and moved to Los Angeles from New York in, 1965, and was writing Get Smart, Bewitched, eventually All in the Family, and Sanford and Sons, Give Me a Break, and all those sitcoms, So that was a part of it. I mean, honestly, my great-grandparents' age, they're the ones who came over. Well, no, wait a minute. My double great-grandparents, I'm pretty sure all of my great-grandparents were born in the U.S., and that their parents came over from Eastern Europe, from like Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, that area, and came in and did it, from what I know, pretty typical of the peeps that immigrated at that time. They ended up going to Ellis Island and continuing a trade that they learned in their old country, usually manual labor stuff with the hands, textiles and stuff like that. And then it was their grandchildren that ended up starting in that film and television industry.
Okay, so your grandfather who wrote 3 Days of the Condor,
yes,
his last name wasn't Garrett, was it?
No, his last name is Raphael.
Okay.
And his dad, so a lot of them were in law as well. So my great grandfather, my mom's grandpa, biologically, was a guy named Leo Raphael, and he was the Supreme Court judge for the state of New York.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the reason I ask is because Hank Garrett, the guy we were talking about, the bad guy from 3 Years of the Condor.
Oh, another Garrett.
He's from New York.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, plenty of Garretts from that area. The Garrett name came because my grandpa, Don Garrett, who married my grandmother and then legally adopted my mom when she was like 2.
Got you.
That's where the name Garrett came from. And he was an incredible, amazing person as well. He was a publicist. He was a writer, but he ended up being a publicist. He represented the Jackson 5 and like the Flintstones and the Jetsons and all kinds of fun stuff.
That is nuts. I think it's hilarious that somebody represented the Flintstones and the Jetsons. Yeah. That's funny as shit.
Right? It is hilarious.
Okay, so we're going to bounce all over the place because your story is...
Go for it.
Well, your story is all over the place.
Mm.
You're the second cast member from the movie Animal House to be on this show.
Oh, yeah. It was on before.
Actually, your mother.
Oh, of course. Yes, my mom was the first one. Well, I was a fetus at the time, so I don't know that I'm not in the credits or anything.
You were on set, bro.
I was on set. Okay. I was on set.
I just think that is hilarious. So you got started young. What high school did you go to in LA?
I went to Oakwood High School.
Okay, so I was talking to a guy, Frank Meyer, which is Breckenmeyer's brother. He said that if you grow up in the industry, and like he grew up sort of tangentially like you did, like his folks were like Hollywood lawyers, entertainment lawyers, that kind of thing. He said there's 2 high schools. There's Oakwood, and then there's Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he said if you grow up in the business, you go to one of those two high schools.
Yeah, either in the valley or the west side. Yes, the Crossroads is on the west side, and Oakwood's in the valley.
Again, this is going to be a weird and wild ride, but
Mhm.
one of the first things that you did on a thing for a thing was that you sang on the score for the movie Scrooged. Is that correct?
I did. Yes, that is correct.
I'm sure you've seen that movie more than once.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
What is your favorite quote from that movie? Because there's a quote that I use on an almost daily basis.
It has been too long since I've seen it, but what's your favorite quote from that movie? I want to know. I'm sure I'll remember it.
Okay, so I love it because it's so apt for every corner of business and industry.
Right.
At a certain point, Bill Murray says, all day long, I hear excuses about why people can't do their jobs. I'm sick. I'm tired. I'm only 4.
I'm only 4. That's right.
I love that song. How did that happen to be? How did you come to be a part of that score? Because that was Danny Elfman's first score, right?
It was indeed. And it was his first feature film score. I went to elementary school with his kids. So all the talent shows and anything to do with music at all of my schools, I was just part of all of it. You know, they wanted me to sing everything. And so I happily did and did a bunch of stuff with his kids. And he was there and had like me and his kids sing the children's like parts for the vocal stuff on that score.
I love it.
It was pretty cool, man. We used to do Halloween sometimes over at their house. It was in Topanga Canyon. If you're not familiar with it, it's nothing like LA. It's so different from LA, and I'm so fortunate that I grew up going to elementary school there. It's very rural with mountains and woods and horses and cacti and all kinds of fun stuff. And Halloween at the Elfman place was pretty damn cool. It was like we had like metal sheets to make it sound like there was thunder and all kinds of stuff. And that house was just amazing. Skeletons all over the place. Really, really cool. All kinds of musical instruments. And the studio, I remember, was really beautiful. Old school. It was the 80s, I think, at the time. So
I love that so much. So the band that he was in before that, was it Oingo Boingo or Wang Chung?
Mm-hmm. No, it was Oingo Boingo.
Oingo Boingo,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, the Mystic Knights. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Real quick, how many guitars do you have? Not with you, but how many guitars do you have?
I honestly don't even know anymore. I like there are guitars. I have so many guitars that there are a few where I'm like, where is that? Where are those guitars? Like I have so many, I don't even know where they all are. I'm not sure. A lot.
So you never get rid of one,
Nah,
right?
I never get rid of them because I don't really have to have a need to get rid of them. You know?
Yeah. So where do you keep them all?
The numerous places. There's a bunch that travel in the semi, in the vault with Brett Young because I'm, on tour with him all the time. So they just live there or in our storage space for Brett. And then I have a bunch at my house in Nashville. There's some at my mom's house. There's some at my dad's house. There's like guitars all over the damn place.
So you did move to Nashville fully, right?
Yes, I did.
When?
I moved there about 6 years ago.
I know that you're back and forth all the time because you just have so much to do in LA as well as Nashville. But why did you decide to permanently move? Like just now you made it sound like you don't have a place in LA like your mom does and your dad does.
Yeah, I don't have a place in LA anymore. Yeah, I moved to Nashville full time about 6 years ago when I started playing with Brett Young.
Oh, so that was what precipitated the move? Was that?
That was the reason. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, cool.
And, Nashville geographically is in such a perfect place for touring, especially bus touring, because it's so easy to get everywhere. South, Northeast, Midwest certainly is all right there. So ground transpo, it's pretty important. Most of the touring country bands in Nashville live in Nashville because otherwise you'd have to fly yourself to the shows or to bus call to catch the bus. It's, I live 10 minutes from where I catch the tour bus and it's very, very easy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's nice, man.
And also it's got to be just a wee bit more affordable.
Well, yeah, I mean, gosh, that was a huge plus, of course, living up in LA my whole life and born and raised there and watching that go crazy. But of course, the housing market in Nashville has gone wild as well. My friends who moved there 10, 15 years ago or so, got the the bonanza of a lifetime, buy a house for nothing and now it's worth millions.
Yeah, but if you move there before COVID, then you kind of you're like the last group of fools who got there before it started going crazy because COVID, Nashville just busted wide open. Like everybody moved to Nashville and Texas. I live here in Bernie, like outside of San Antonio, and
Gotcha.
The influx is insane from everywhere,
Yeah, there were people who left Nashville too to go back to hometowns during COVID as well. That was just a kind of like, I think people moved from more expensive places than Nashville to Nashville, but people moved certainly from Nashville to other places that were less expensive than that during COVID.
Sure.
I mean, it's still on the rise. The influx of population in Nashville is crazy. It's nonstop. We'll see. It's interesting. A lot of people moved from LA to Nashville. Nashville became kind of a little LA. And I was one of the later ones to make the move.
Right. You're a new kid.
I'm a new kid on the block.
So since we're talking about Nashville, why do you think that there is another artist migration happening like currently? Like I just read yesterday that Ed Sheeran is going to move to Nashville and start making country music.
Amazing. I think they have their shit together to do this in ways that other places haven't done. And Nashville's been Music City for 100 years. You know what I mean? They didn't just start right now trying to put those systems in place. They have been developing, evolving, and solidifying over the last century. And it's a very friendly place for somebody like Ed Sheeran. Walk right in, come into the best studios, work with the best songwriters, the best producers, make real country music. You know what I mean? Like with the cats who have been doing it.
Yeah, real country music like Beyonce's Cowboy Country.
Right, I know. I'm glad whenever anybody tries to, expand their genres, because the truth is, especially today, there's so few elements that lock a style of music or an artist into a particular genre. And country music, the way that it's evolved, is a great example of that. Country music is not pure traditional country music by a long shot anymore. And kind of what the country music industry did was they were able to continue to have success in areas where the mainstream industry was failing because they kept it tight. You know what I mean? They kept it small. There's a lot of gatekeeping that happened in the mainstream world where there were a lot of people who had success or a few people who had success, and they were kind of like, maybe we can just keep this all to ourselves and let everyone else just spin their wheels. But in Nashville, the music always wins. You know what I mean? If you come into town and you're a great songwriter or a great musician, people are going to pay attention to that. They're not going to lock the door so you don't get in and make them look bad. They'll be like, come on, let's see what we can do together.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey, this is Landon from the podcast Landon Talks with Kate. Y'all, we wrote a book, Bless Your Heart, A Field Guide to All Things Southern. Comes out April 1st of 2025, and I know that's April Fool's Day, and I do stand-up comedy, but this is not a joke. I literally wrote a book. It's a field guide to life in the South. It's a field guide to how things go down here. It is a hilarious adventure. It's one of those kind of books that you can pick up at any point and read any part of it. You don't have to read it straight through because it is just a fun jaunt, a fun little saunter down an encyclopedia of Southern life. And I will tell y'all, it really got interesting because I am Southern, obviously. So the things I say, I understand. My editors were not. So we've got footnotes, we've got cross references. This thing is turned educational because we had to explain it for everybody. So if you're from the South, you're going to love it because it's hilarious, the things that we talk about and do and the way that we exist. If you're not from the South, you're going to love it because it's a literal guide into life down here and all the silly things that we do and say and all the nostalgia as well. You can pre-order your copy now wherever books are sold. And if you want to hear more from me, check out my podcast, Landon Talks with Kate, wherever podcasts are found.
Let's get back into it.
I think that music is art, and art really starts to get fucked up when people put rules on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And try to define it. Art is art, and it should just free flow and do whatever it needs to do. I hope that didn't come off as a knock on Beyonce. I think it's cool that she tried that with Cowboy Carter.
No, man, no.
But my favorite quote from her is kind of like the way Dolly did. Dolly put out a rock and roll album last year.
Uh-huh.
And it was after she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Dolly said about that, she said, my music isn't rock and roll. My music is Dolly Parton. And so that's basically right. What Beyonce said. She said, this album isn't a country album. It's a Beyonce album.
That is correct. That's a better way of explaining. Like Post Malone, for example, by juxtaposition, right?
Exactly.
He came to Nashville. He worked with all the cats there, worked in the studios there, wrote songs with Nashville country songwriters, and he made a country record that totally qualifies as a country record, whether he's a country artist or not. Beyonce, on the other hand, made a record that sounds like what a pop singer thinks country music sounds like.
Exactly.
Myself, I couldn't make a country record as a solo artist. I'm not a country artist. I don't have that authenticity. And I also just, whatever it is, anytime I write a song, when I was making my last EP, I did it in Nashville with the great Marshall Altman producing. And I was writing stuff and I was like, is any of this, like, we're in Nashville here, is any of this country? And some of it, like one of my songs called Crane City, it sounds almost bluegrass, not country. Not bluegrass. I can't explain exactly why, but in the same way that Beyonce's record is not country, neither would mine be. Even if it had country elements and instruments and so on, there's a fine line. It's hard to really define, but part of it is if it's done in that context, in that community, as a part of that movement. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Look, Chappell Roan has a country song on the charts right now. Sure, why not? You know, like country's been pop for a lot longer than pop has been trying to be country. So let's let pop do some country stuff. Why not?
Yeah, I think the best example in my eyes would probably be Taylor Swift.
Exactly.
You know, like she started off like just straight country. I mean, like pure bones country. And then slowly with each album, she sort of changed a little bit of what that definition is. And now nobody even thinks that she used to be country, which is funny.
It is funny. And not only did she change the definition of country music for herself as an artist, but she changed the global definition and what classifies it and qualifies it as country music. She's a great example because she came up in Nashville, writing with great writers, recording at those studios with those musicians. Scott Borchetta, who's a lifer in the industry, was a big part of that in creating the initial thing that was Taylor Swift that she then took and ran with to become the biggest artist in the world, you know?
Well, second biggest, but yeah, I got you.
Well, who's biggest?
Little dude named Keaton Simons. What's up, dude?
Oh, hey, watch out.
Okay, so again, we're going to bounce all over the place. You have a degree in ethnomusicology. What the hell is that?
That's right. So it is just a fancy sounding word for the study of world music, ethnomusicology.
Why did you decide to do that?
You know, it's funny because I didn't go into it going, I would like to go to college in order to study ethnomusicology. What I did was I graduated from high school early. I graduated when I was 16. So playing guitar and just got, you know, was very good at music and knew that I wanted to do that. And I started doing it and started working as a musical director for Slim Kid Trey from the Pharcyde when I was like 17. And then I went and visited some friends of mine who were going to college because I was like, do I want to go to college? I don't know. It was a couple of years later. My friends were graduating from high school and they were going to go to college. I was like, all right, I'll come visit a couple of you. And I went to visit my friend Jesse Krakow at the Evergreen State College. And it was such a wonderful, magical, chill
Is that in
experience.
Washington?
It is. It's in Olympia, Washington.
My daughter lives there.
Oh, very cool, man. What a beautiful place. I mean, it rains a lot, of course, but during the non-rainy months, it's hard to find a more beautiful place on earth. It is amazing there. I went, I visited, I had a magical time. I decided it was the right vibe for me. And your first year at Evergreen, the only stipulation is that you need to take a full-time course, right? So 16 credits per quarter course rather than piecemeal, which you can do, you know, for the rest of your time there. But the first year, they want you to do a full-time, full credit course. And the music course that was being offered full-time that year was Southeast Asian Performing Arts and Culture, which was my entree into ethnomusicology. And so because of that, I learned how to play Indonesian gamelan music and a dozen instruments that comprise that ensemble. We, with my professor, Sean Williams, we pioneered a course in playing a stringed instrument from Indonesia called the kecapi, that they now continue to teach at that school, but I was the first one to do it. It started with me, and I ended up playing so much music and so much hip hop. I was so involved in the hip hop scene in LA while I was at school. So I'd go back to LA as an example. I left before walking in my graduation because I had a gig with Trey from Pharcyde in Vegas with like Planet Asia, Black Eyed Peas, all these like crazy dudes. Flew there for that gig and flew back to do gigs in Olympia for the post graduation festivities and stuff. So I was jumping all over the place, and it was a really fun college experience for me because it was the 90s. I was in Olympia, Washington, with Kill Rock Stars and K Records, Elliott Smith, and Nirvana and all that had come out of that area, and they all lived in the housing that we all lived in and all that kind of stuff. And it was just a cool vibe. And then the hip hop was really rocking, and everybody was into that, and I was very heavily involved in that. So it was fun.
So you mentioned the words musical director. That means different things to different people. What does it mean when you, Keaton Simons, are a musical director for an artist, or for a hip hop artist specifically? I mean, you did that for Snoop too.
Well, yes, but although I wasn't technically the musical director for the Snoop project, but I ended up being default MD for a lot of those projects at that time, mostly because I had education in music and the ability to kind of communicate it to everybody. I think of being a musical director as basically a translator. I'm a liaison for communication. I hear from the artist what they want, and then I translate that into reality, whether it's communicating it to the other musicians or in the studio or whatever it might be to make it sound a certain way, or just interpreting it. Like in hip hop, a lot of the front people, a lot of the artists don't have musical education. Many of them don't play an instrument at all, or even sing for that matter, but they have plenty of ideas about what they want stuff to sound like, and can say something like, I'm hearing this kind of thing where it's like a bang, 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 bang. Right? Cool. You're hearing that. I can translate that and turn that into something that we can play live with a full band, that we can take into the studio and record, that we can develop into something, you know what I mean? Take it and actualize it. Whereas, the rest of the band is kind of going, all right, what would you like me to play here? I'm able to be the liaison and say, well, here's what Trey's hearing for this, so let's do it this way and see how that works.
So like a composer almost, or a conductor.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a little bit of conductoriness to it. Also, we just recently with Brett started to tour without any backing tracks, which is quite uncommon, especially in this genre at this level. Usually you have the live band, and then you have other elements that are synced up playing to the audience to bolster the sound, make it bigger, add little things it would otherwise necessitate like 3 or 4 other musicians on stage. But instead you can just have it in tracks, and one of the jobs of musical director, at least for myself as a musical director, is producing and creating and curating those tracks as well. So like I'll create those tracks to play along with us live. Now we don't have any more, so it's less work for me, which is totally cool. But it's a fun thing to do. As a producer, I have so much fun creating, because most people in the audience don't even know there are tracks being played, and that's intentional. I don't want anybody going, hey, where's that sound coming from,
Sure, yeah. Nobody needs to peek behind the curtain.
Mm-mm.
This is a weird question. How many TV pilots have you been in, and why didn't you quit trying to be an actor when none of them went?
Right? Exactly. Why didn't I quit?
Yeah, why didn't you quit? A lot of people have a lot of quit in them. How come you didn't quit?
Well, you know what? With acting, I don't know that I feel I ever really committed to it, to be perfectly honest. So I kind of pre-quit, I think. I grew up in that industry, so it's a very casual thing for me. I have some fundamental issues with the auditioning process. I find it to be ineffectual. I don't really believe in it, so I don't do it very often. I did more when I was a kid. I think part of it is that I've always been aware of the fact that the majority of projects that get started don't come to fruit. And so that's just a part of the business. Like everybody else I knew who was really trying to make it in the industry were in 10 times more failed projects than I've been in, and they stuck with it. And I think honestly, if you want to be successful in any of these fields, you have to have enough passion and desire for it to stick with it despite those things. You can't even let that impact you at all. You know what I mean? If it drives you, sure. But honestly, I like to be as detached from that as possible. You know, I do a lot of singing in commercials, and most of the demos that I sing, I feel are better than what I hear as the final. But the majority of the finals don't go to me, just because that's part of the process. There's 10 plus people in contention for something. 9 of them aren't going to get it. That's a big landslide of a ratio there. So
I guess it helps, you know, because you kind of seem pretty laid back about it. You're like, if I get a movie or if I get a commercial, cool. If not, that's cool too. I guess it helps that you kind of had a front row seat for that. Like there's a famous story that John Hamm was in 15 failed pilots before Mad Men got picked up. And likewise, there's a guy he's a huge actor now, but he was struggling for a really, really long time until coincidentally your mother got him on ER. And that guy is George Clooney.
Oh, little George Clooney. Yeah. Oh yeah, buddy.
I mean, he was in Roseanne and he was in Facts of Life and all that stuff, but nothing really blew him up until like way later in his career. He had been in so many things until it finally popped, which everybody, that was this dude's mom, convinced everybody to put that dude in there.
Yeah, man, I've seen that happen so many times where like what did I just see that like they were considering James Gandolfini for the lead instead of whoever got it. And it was like so different from, oh my God, what was it? What movie was it? I'll think of it later. But when you hear those stories, when you see like the auditions for Marty McFly role in Back to the Future, and like everybody, huge actors were in there reading for that stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, they filmed half the movie with Eric Stoltz.
Exactly. They did half the movie with Eric Stoltz before they replaced him anyway. So, you know, and if imagine Eric Stoltz quit after that heartbreak. Being in a pilot that fails, that's one thing. Going on an audition and not getting the part, that's one thing. Shooting half a movie and then having them spend a full movie budget just to shoot somebody else in your stead, it's that I commend our sweet Eric Stoltz for having the wherewithal to continue to pursue that life after that kind of a heartbreak, because that'll hurt you. That'll hurt your feelings. It takes work to rise up out of that, you know?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, just the feeling of, you know, like it'd be one thing if Back to the Future, you know, he got replaced and then it didn't do anything. Back to the Future is one of the biggest movies in history. Exactly.
And then it became like, it's like a win. It's like you buy 2 lottery tickets, you give one of them to your friend, and that one's the winner. You notice it's a loser, and you go,
exactly.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
Well, not a loser. Your ticket,
it's normal, right?
They won the big one, but you won 10 grand.
Right, sure. You won 10 grand. But whatever it is.
You know, because he got paid. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool, but it's a tough one, man. Those types of things can be very challenging. But the truth is, I really live with a mentality that I only have the things that I have. I only have the things that I experience. And there's no such thing as an opportunity that I missed or that an opportunity for me went to somebody else. That's impossible. If it was my opportunity, I would have had it and had the full experience. My experience is only what it is. It's not anything that didn't happen. That mentality, I think, enables me to be happy and comfortable and sane in an industry that would otherwise have a lot of disappointment. But I don't allow for disappointment. Disappointment only exists when I'm comparing reality to a hypothetical, parallel, imaginary version that doesn't exist. And I go, if it had been this, but it wasn't that. It's this.
Yeah, if you don't have a preconceived notion of what is supposed to happen, then you can't possibly be sad or let down or disappointed by it not happening.
Correct.
Casey Musgraves in her, I think it was on the Deeper Well album, she has a line, I don't remember which song it is, but it basically says what you said. She says, if the train is meant for you, then it won't leave the station and pull away.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Correct. You know it's not your train if you're not on it. It doesn't matter who else is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
My Grandpa's Grandpa is an award-winning children's book. The story is that a grandfather, me, is tucking in Charlie, my grandson. Like all little children, he starts asking questions at bedtime. The questions he asks are about my grandfather. This book is a great way to think about how you can share stories of your family members with your children and grandchildren. You can order this book by going to Amazon or my website, cool-grandpa.us. If you purchase the book from my website, be sure to use the coupon code FS25 and save 25% on your order of my book, My Grandpa's Grandpa.
Let's get back into it.
Again, we're bounce all over the place. Tell
Yeah.
me about the live performance you did inside a Southwest Airlines airplane. What?
Oh, yeah. Well,
What?
first of all, I'll tell you about the 30,000 times I've entered an airplane with a guitar and had everyone go, "Are you going to give us a concert? Are you going to do a little
Jesus
serenade?"
Christ.
Right? Okay, so that's every time I get on an airplane. And then one time I got to say, yes, I am going to do that. And it was on a Southwest flight. It was part of a whole campaign for a sixth-man cruise called Sail Across the Sun that's hosted by Train.
Train the band?
Train the band. Yes, not to get confusing between boats and trains and planes and automobiles.
Because we were just talking about Casey Musgraves.
We were
and
talking about the trains that leave. Exactly. So I was on Train's boat called Sail Across the Sun. It was a fan vote thing. So they did a whole spiel with me, including a live performance on Southwest Airlines flight, because I was one of their sponsorship partners. We filmed a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. I had a bunch of performances on the boat, of course. And then on the flight on the way over there, performed live at 35,000 feet on that Southwest plane. And it was great. It was so much fun.
That is wild.
You know, it was a little hard to hear, but
Since you have been in and around both film and television industry and the music industry for your entire life, you know everybody.
yeah, I do.
How did you meet and work with and become friends with Jason Mraz?
Oh, okay. Well, Jason Mraz has been a part of the singer-songwriter community that I've been a part of since the very beginning. And so when I first got signed to Maverick Records, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, in 2002, I was already familiar with him as an artist and as a person. A couple of my band members were playing with him as well and touring with him. You know, I went to go see them perform a couple of times, and then I got signed to Maverick. I was working with a production trio called The Matrix, and they had just finished writing and adding to a song of Jason's called The Remedy that then became his first big single that went. And so I was in the studio with them writing and recording my record when The Remedy went to radio. And so that was a big part of the initial connection we had. Then some years later, we started playing together at a really cool venue scene in Venice Beach on Abbot Kinney called the Stronghold. It was a clothing store, and above the clothing store was this really cool loft that got transformed into a live music venue, kind of speakeasy hang. And the artists and friends of mine that were part of that scene were really, really cool. Ben Harper, Brett Dennen, Mraz was a big part of it. I mean, Jackson Browne was in there doing stuff. It was a really cool scene. We played there constantly, and I was with Jason a lot during that. Then we did a fun thing that our friends Hanson, the band, do a songwriting retreat at their property in Oklahoma called Fool's Banquet, where they invite a bunch of their friends, people they've toured with. So like Stephen Kellogg, Pat McGee, Kate Vogel was there that year, and Mraz was there. They kind of pair people up in groups to write songs. There are studio spaces open. So I think I co-wrote and recorded 6 songs in a couple of days while we were there. It was a very productive and prolific time for everybody. And Jason and I wrote a really beautiful song, still one of my favorites, called Is There Any Other Way? One night, late at night, it was off the books, off the schedule, and the two of us were just hanging, and we wrote that really beautiful song.
Was it released?
Yes.
By him or you?
By me. It was on a record of mine called Beautiful Pain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is there any other way?
Well, can I play that song since you love it so much?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Do you want to introduce it like you're a radio DJ?
Absolutely. This next one is There Any Other Way by Keaton Simons. This is a co-write with the great Jason Mraz.
How does it feel now that you call yourself a man? Do you remember how to let go like a child? Ready or not, I never thought I would be so much like my father. He always told me I should keep an open mind. And how does it feel when you're alone? How do you see yourself when no one's there to see you? How will you know what's right or wrong now that the ones you love are gone? And how will you carry on? Is there any other way? How does it feel now that you call yourself a woman? Was there a moment when you left that girl behind? And what was it like late in the night? Did you think your life was over? Or were you only getting closer to the truth? And how does it feel when you're alone? How do you see yourself when no one's there to see you? How will you know what's right or wrong now that the ones you love are gone? And how will you carry on? Is there any other way? 'Cause time doesn't measure all the things you are and where you come from. There's an endless road ahead. What is it like now that you recognize the miracle of life? Do you believe it? Really believe it's happening? Oh, and how does it feel when you're alone? How do you see yourself when no one's there to see you? How will you know what's right or wrong now that the ones you love are gone? And how will you carry on? Is there any other way? Is there any other way? Is there any other way?
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's one of my favorite things is to get artists to act like a radio DJ. How long did you sing with Gnarles Barkley, and were you an official member?
I was an official member, but it was only for a short time that I was singing with. It was in 2006. The single Crazy had been released and was breaking records in the UK. So all the iTunes records were being broken. And then they formed the band, basically. It was Danger Mouse and CeeLo that created that project together and made all the recordings. And then it was time to put a band together because now they had a big hit singles and big hit records. So let's go. So in LA, they assembled a band of mostly artists. So there were a bunch of really, really cool people involved. And the vocal ensemble, especially the background ensemble that I was a part of in that band, was Holly Palmer and Reese and myself. It was all artists and writers and stuff. Justin Meldell Johnson was the MD and bass player at that time. Chris Renna was playing drums. Zach Ray was playing keys. It was an all-star type of situation. I was completely honored to be a part of it. Did a couple of classic appearances with them. Coachella, did that first Coachella, the first time that Madonna was at Coachella with like Franz Ferdinand. The backstage was us and Franz Ferdinand. Jesus. And all this. There was such I mean, it was that time. It was that era. That was amazing. We did a pop-up. It was a MySpace secret show at the Key Club, I think, or either there or the Roxy. I forgot where it was, somewhere in LA on Sunset. But then their next move was a European tour. They cut the band in half for that, for budget reasons.
Sure.
And that was it. So it was a short time, but it was really, really wonderful.
Now, your first record label was Maverick.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, Madonna's company. Like almost all record deals, that album did not come out.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. So that was Madonna's company, but did you ever meet her or interact with her about it, about your thing?
No, not at all during that time. Guy Oseary was the president of that label, and Danny Strick was the head of A&R, and those were my dudes, you know?
What did you ever do with the music? I know that they owned it, or maybe still do.
Yeah.
Did any of it ever happen to get out?
Yeah, some of it did get out. I re-recorded it, and some of it I just kind of made available or released on my own independently, and just kind of said like, hey, if I start to generate enough that these guys come looking for me, then great, we can make a deal then. You know what I mean? But at first it was quite discouraging because, of course, you know, I was trying to avoid all those pitfalls. I knew what the typical story was for an artist at a record label, and it was not looking like it was going to be that story for me at the time. But it is no surprise that the most typical thing that happened because it's the most typical thing.
Sure, yeah. It's like all those pilots that we were talking about in Hollywood.
Exactly. That's what most people don't realize. It's like pretty much anything. There's a veil covering all the stuff that's less sellable, less interesting, less digestible. You know what I'm saying? And if you lift that veil, you see there's a lot of stuff, you know, that just kind of doesn't go anywhere. All the consumer public sees is the stuff that gets released. They don't see that there's 95% more that doesn't. So what are you going to do?
And that's the same with any job. I mean, if you're in a hotel right now, if you go downstairs to the lobby, the person who's at the front desk, there was 300 people that applied for that job, but only one got it. It's
Precisely.
The same thing.
It is the same thing. It is.
What did you work on with Darryl McDaniels of Run DMC?
Oh, yes.
Oh, and also, can I have his phone number? Go ahead.
Of course, sure. Yeah, no problem. I'll just give out his number.
Oh, thanks.
No, man. First of all, I am a hip hop kid from way back. So Run DMC.
Well, let's see how far back. Previous guest of my show is the sole surviving Fat Boy.
Oh, I was big into the Fat Boys.
I got Cool Rock Ski was on my show. He is so dope.
That's amazing.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm just so excited that I had that guy on. He's so cool.
I used to watch the movie Disorderlies, like obsessively. I've watched that movie every day for many years of my life when I was a kid. But yeah, loved the Fat Boys, loved Run DMC and all those guys from the very beginning. Of course, the Pharcyde. When I started working with Trey from Pharcyde, I was just beside myself because I was and still am a humongous fan. But yeah, worked with Darryl on some of his original stuff. There were some covers that we did. It was a project that I was working on that was kind of a hip hop, Afro funk kind of project. And he was generous enough to get involved and hang with us. We were working with the same producer on stuff, and we just ended up doing a couple of fun little things together. He featured on a single for this project that I was working on, and we just got to hang, and it was really cool.
That's nice. Growing up, just loved the Fat Boys, Run DMC, all them shits. Yeah. Those were my jams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, buddy.
On YouTube, there is a music video. I guess it's a music. It is a video of music. How about that?
Okay.
Currently, right now, it is at 180 million views.
Oh, my gosh.
It is a song called Nothing Compares to You.
Yes. Oh, I knew what it was because I don't have anything else that has hundreds of millions.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Nothing Compares to You, which you know as a Sinead O'Connor song. It was written by Prince.
Right.
And a bunch of years ago, Chris Cornell sang that song on Sirius. I don't know what for, but he sang that song. It
was on Lithium. It was for live interview and performance that we were doing.
On Lithium?
Yeah. So it was when he released his last solo record and the single, we were all out promoting that single. And the first live performance we did in promotion of that was that live interview and performance on acoustically on Sirius XM.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, he said we because Chris Cornell sings it, sure, and he plays some guitar, sure, but about a third of the way through, Chris Cornell just says, Keaton Simons. and then Keaton
right.
Simons just rips a guitar in half. It's amazing.
Thanks, man.
So I don't need any numbers because I don't care, but that video has 180 million views.
Yeah, geez.
Does any of that revenue get to your house?
No, none of that revenue gets to me.
That's awesome.
No. Right? I know, wouldn't that be great? But no, in that case, listen, if it was a video that like I made or something,
Sure. Right.
But that's pretty far removed from me.
Well, it's pretty far removed from me. It's not that removed from you.
I mean revenue wise,
okay, gotcha.
Financially, and understanding this business, there's a very steep drop off that happens as soon as you're not an owner or part of any of the foundation of the situation. I was there and I was paid for my time and for my appearance, and I was compensated fairly and equitably under the circumstance. No part of me would expect or anticipate any kind of revenue share in something like that.
Sure. No, I was just curious.
But I totally get, listen, some people are very generous with that kind of thing. My personal experience has been that, like, I have contributed tremendously to a lot of other people's artistic selves and projects, and they have not chosen to give me additional kind of bonus compensation for those type of things. But I've also never expected or wanted or asked for it.
Sure.
It's always been a fine line. Do you watch South Park? Are you a South Park guy at all?
I'm a grown up, but I used to. Yeah.
Okay. So I am not a grown up and I am a South Park guy. So there's a great episode where Jimmy and Cartman co-write a joke about fish sticks. And it's actually Jimmy who writes the whole joke. Cartman was just there. And he kind of he starts talking about it as, oh yeah, this joke we wrote and our joke is getting used by this person. And one of the friends of the kids, because Jimmy's like, well, actually, Cartman didn't really write any of the joke per se. And one of their friends said, just give him half.
Oh, wow.
I could not agree more with that kid. Just give him half, because the bullshit that people undergo trying to split hairs over percent. To me, if I write a song and somebody else is there, I'm going to split it with them, because it's not worth the bullshit that ensues. It would just go, this wouldn't exist without the circumstances, all of the circumstances involved. And so I'm going to respect and acknowledge them all.
Well, that makes sense, because you kind of grew up and around hip hop music. And if you watch the Grammys or whatever, if a hip hop song wins a Grammy, there's 47 people that are accredited as songwriters.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Most of them weren't even in the room, I'll tell you.
What?
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's true. That's true of most genres these days. Listen, not to get too crotchety about it, but there are a lot of label heads, people on the business side, who just have it in their contract that they take a percentage of the writing and the publishing also, just so that they can have additional sneaky revenue streams. Yeah. And there are a lot of songs and pieces of music that are written entirely by a separate out of the industry entity, brought in, and then everybody just goes to town and takes all their percentage up, and they're left with less than 10% of something that they actually created 100% of. So that happens more often than 17 people in a room collaborating together. With hip hop, a lot of it will be like, somebody will make the beat, somebody will get the beat and bring it in the studio, somebody else might add something to it. There's 3 or 4 people who write verses for it. So that it starts to accumulate in a legit way. But then there's always the president of the label or whoever who is also taking a percentage, and their name is on it too. But I guarantee they had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that happens in Hollywood too, I guess.
Sure does.
Like there'll be people who are executive producers, and the people who wrote or directed or starred in it are like, I don't even know who that person is. I've never met them. I don't know who that is.
Absolutely.
It happens all the time.
There are ways to justify it and rationalize it. In that case, an executive producer in a film and television project is typically responsible for funding or finding the funding. So technically, yeah, that person, you wouldn't necessarily have a project if not for that person's involvement. So I can understand that as a label, from a label head's point of view also. They go, well, hey, we're going to be releasing, marketing, distributing, all that kind of stuff. But they're already getting paid for that. You know what I mean? Like,
to go back and quote John Hamm from Mad Men, that's what the money's for. You're already being paid for that.
That's what the money's for. Yes. She wants a little thank you because that's what the money's for.
That's right.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Karen Silkwood had a purpose. She was headed to a crucial meeting that would blow the whistle on the billion-dollar nuclear corporation she worked for. Instead, she died in a concrete culvert on a dark, desolate stretch of highway just outside of Crescent, Oklahoma. To discredit her, authorities and the institution Karen sought to expose called her nothing more than an emotionally disturbed and sexually promiscuous drug abuser. But in her death, she became a martyr for feminism, environmentalism, and pro-labor movements. From the creators of Gone Cold, Texas True Crime comes Silkwood, a story that remains one of the most explosive conspiracies in 20th century America and became the inspiration for a critically acclaimed movie. Silkwood dives deep into 28-year-old whistleblower Karen Silkwood, her relentless fight for truth, and the chilling events that followed. Betrayal, danger, and a mysterious unsolved death that still haunts the nation 5 decades later. Seeking justice, Karen went up against a corporate Goliath and paid the ultimate price. With no known witnesses, what happened to Karen Silkwood on that cold November night? Was it an accident? Was she silenced for knowing too much? Or something far more sinister? In a world where profits are placed above safety, Silkwood takes you inside a gripping true tale of corporate greed, government cover-ups, and the deadly secrets inside a nuclear industry titan. Don't miss this eye-opening journey into one of the most powerful stories of our time. Find Silkwood on your favorite podcast platform and hit that subscribe button now. Some secrets are too dangerous to stay hidden.
Let's get back into it.
Keaton, we're up against it here, so I'm going to ask you something right now, and if you say no, I'll cut it out. But
Sure.
Dude, we didn't get to even half of the stuff I wanted to talk about. Can you come back at some point?
Yes, please. I love that. Yeah, there's too much to talk about. Plus, you and I feel could go all day. So let's do it. Let's do a continuation.
I really feel like we could. Tell me about thenaturalchild.org.
Ooh, thenaturalchild.org is one of my favorite things in the world. Jan Hunt wrote a great book called The Natural Child, and it's an alternative, ideology for child raising and child development. I think it's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing in the world, because you're literally educating people and teaching peace and understanding and communication and patience and collaboration and so on and so forth from the very beginning. I feel like every parent would benefit from checking it out. And I got to read the audio for a couple of the books. I'm a big supporter of that. I'm always trying to figure out which charitable organizations and institutions to become involved with and aligned with. And to me, something that has to do with child development and anti-child abuse and so on is just about the best thing that anybody can do.
My wife is a master's prepared psychiatric nurse and has been for quite some time, and she specializes in children's behavioral health and children's circumstances and dealing with the things that happen to kids and all that stuff. So yeah. I wanted to make sure and bring that up. Everybody go check out thenaturalchild.org. I'm sure there's a place where you can donate and help out at that organization.
Oh, yeah.
You, my friend, Keaton Simons, are the lead guitar player for the Brett Young Band.
That's right. Yeah.
And you guys are about to embark on some crazy, crazy, wild tours. This episode is not going to come out until May.
Okay.
So for all of May, Keaton and I guess Brett are going to be in Australia, touring all over the place in Australia. And then they're going to, I guess, take a little break. And then in October, they're going to Scandinavia. Mm-hmm. They're going to be all over Norway, all over Sweden, all over Denmark. And I want to say that last year, you guys went to Scandinavia as well. Like, you guys go there a lot. What's going on, man?
The cool thing is country music, modern country music, is starting to have more of a global presence, which is very cool. It was kind of just an American thing for a long time.
Which is why Ed Sheeran's moving to Nashville from Ireland.
Which is why Ed Sheeran's moving from Ireland. Exactly. So it's starting to have more of a global presence and success and fan base worldwide. fantastic. Brett in particular is a favorite. He is one of the top country artists in the global market, especially in Europe, especially in the UK and Scandinavia. They love us, we love them. So every year for the last couple of years, we've been touring over there, and it's amazing watching it grow and grow and grow, having to add shows, move into bigger venues, more fans. And man, the European audiences, they love music. They love live music. They love artistry. They love creativity. They like personality. They don't like a bunch of shit that all sounds the same. They like real stuff. And I love and respect them for it. It's always been something that I've loved, going to Europe and sharing music over there. So working with Brett and having this crescendo of success over there is great. And then Australia is another one. I've never been personally. Brett went with a smaller ensemble, an earlier incarnation of his live band, to Australia years ago, but it's been years. It was like 2016 or something. So now here we are almost 10 years later, and we're going back. And cool thing is, I've been friends with Brett for just under 20 years. Only started playing with him about 6 years ago, but I've always been a supporter, always been a fan, and always been a friend. And I think he is an amazing songwriter. One of the benchmarks to me of an amazing song is that it can be performed or recorded in any genre. And there's an artist named Mauli, who's a Hawaiian artist, whose two biggest songs are In Case You Didn't Know and Mercy, two of Brett's #1 hits, done in island reggae style. And they're hugely popular and hugely successful all over the South Pacific and in Australia and in New Zealand and so on and so on. So we've got a whole other artist over there gaining fans for us. So when we go over there, it's great. We had to do the same thing, add shows, increase venue sizes, all that kind of stuff. So I cannot wait. I'm excited. And I just got back from Guam. So I'm tired.
I need you to tell me what you were doing in Guam.
We went to Guam for MWR, which is Morale, Welfare, and Recreation that the U.S. Navy does. It's kind of like the USO, but they have separate organizations for different things to bring artists and people over to entertain and kind of raise the spirits of the troops over there. We were over there on the military bases and aircraft carriers and stuff, just jumping in on a very cool project. The company Degi, my friend Ari Nisman, created called Shock and Awesome, where we jump in and pop up in various places. There was one time where they told the troops that they were going to do a random drug test, and it was just us instead. It was so great. And it all culminates to like a live performance on a stage with them. And we were expecting like 500 people, and there were 3,300 people that showed up. So it was a really great experience.
Wow, that's kick-ass. Well, thank you for your service to the people who give us their service. That's really cool.
It's such an honor to be part of that. Like, no matter what else you think or believe or what your rest of your life story is, being there firsthand one-on-one with them and their families over there and being a part of raising spirits and bringing some love and happiness over there is really, really feels like an honor to me.
I love that. It is an honor, and I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah.
So everybody who's looking to go check out Brett Young on tour in Australia or Scandinavia, do I assume correctly that it is brettyoung.com, or is there some other, where would they go?
brettyoungmusic.com.
Brett Young Music. Okay, great. Keaton, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yeah.
Because you also do solo stuff. You don't just do music with Brett Young. You also do your own stuff, and you do it all over the place. And I think the best way to find out where is through social media. So tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. The best place for me these days is Instagram. And my Instagram handle is just @Keaton Simons. I got in early before any underscores or anything like that were necessary. So it's just my name, @Keaton Simons. And I'm on the other ones, but like my Facebook got hacked, so it's not me on there anymore. Obviously, I don't use Twitter anymore, or whatever the hell it's called now. TikTok's never been a thing for me. So to me, Instagram is great because usually it's me reposting stuff or just, watching reels, like flipping channels like we used to do with flipping channels on TV. But if there's ever any information that is relevant or important, I promise I will post it on my Instagram page.
Love it.
And so you'll be able to know. If you check it out, you'll see it.
Fantastic. Keaton Simons. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your world-traveling, music-making schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street, man. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, bro. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. Let's continue.
Well, we 100% will do it again. I will keep in touch with you. Dude, I'm sure I won't talk to you again before you go on tour, man. Have a blast in Australia and watch out for drop bears.
Dude, I don't even want to know what that is because it's like everything in Australia is trying to kill you. Drop bears? What is that? Just a bear that drops out of the sky and falls and eats your face?
Okay, so drop bears, it's how the locals fuck with tourists.
Okay.
They go, oh, watch out for drop bears. And what they mean is that koalas, who like 70% of them have chlamydia. So they say koala bears will just drop out of the trees onto you. That doesn't happen. So they're just fucking with you.
That's so funny.
Watch out for drop bears.
Well, I'll watch out for the drop bears. No, we have an Australian in the band. So I've got an insider. He'll keep me safe.
Nice. I hope he doesn't say crikey, not even once. If he says crikey, then you better run.
Oh, yes. If I hear crikey, I'm out.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much, Steve. You have a great rest of your time. Dude, have a great tour.
I will. Pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure, dude. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye. Opening music is the song FSP Theme, written, performed, and provided by Ambush Vin. Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jack's Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend. Subscribe and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.